Have you ever felt a quiet dread when your phone lights up with a notification from a parent? Not a crisis, but a simple question mark. A text that hangs in the digital space between you, carrying the unspoken weight of a relationship that exists now in two languages, the one you were born into and the one you built to survive. This is the story of the family translator, not of language but of emotion. The child who learned very early to interpret silence for sound disappointment, for love and anxiety for care. Their childhood wasn't marked by loud drama, but by a constant low-frequency hum of emotional static. They became experts in micro-expressions, the slight tightening of a jaw, the specific sigh that meant a good day had just turned precarious. Their primary play wasn't with toys, but with atmospheric calibration. How to be small enough, quiet enough, successful enough to keep the emotional weather in the room stable. You learn to parent your parent. Not in actions, but in anticipation. You learn to sense the shift in mood before they did. You learn that love was not a constant, unconditional warmth, but a reward for perfect emotional maintenance. Your achievements were not celebrated as yours, but as reflections of their correct parenting. Your failures were not lessons, but personal betrayals. So you curated your reports from the world. You edited your experiences, your friendships, your inner life into a highlight reel that would assure them, and by extension yourself, that everything was fine. That times were fine. The cost of this is a specific kind of loneliness. You are surrounded by people known by family, yet feel fundamentally unseen, because the you they know is the translation. The filtered, buffered, carefully packaged version designed for safe consumption. The real you, the one with messy doubts, unconventional dreams, quiet rebellions, exists in a locked room inside your own mind. You are fluent in their emotional language, but they have never asked to learn yours. So you become a bridge between your authentic self and their perception, and you are constantly walking across it alone. This creates an adult who is hyper-competent and deeply tired. You have the emotional intelligence of a seasoned therapist, but you use it primarily as a defense mechanism. Your relationships often replay the old dynamic. You attract partners who need managing, fixing, translating, because that is where you feel valued. Your own needs feel like inconvenient static to be muted, so you can better tune into the frequency of others. You are praised for your strength, your resilience, your endless capacity to handle things. But no one sees the exhaustion of the perpetual interpreter who just once wants to speak in their native tongue and be understood without having to provide subtitles. The plot twist isn't a hidden will or a long-lost sibling. It's quieter and far more devastating. The twist is this: you were never translating their pain times for them, asterisk. You were translating it times for you, asterisk. To make it make sense, to forge a logic in the chaos. To believe that if you could just find the right words, the perfect tone, the impeccable behavior, you could finally earn the unconditional safety you were born needing. The real hidden truth is that their emotional world was never a puzzle you were meant to solve. It was a storm you were forced to live inside, and you built your entire identity around being the perfect, unnoticed shelter. The moment of recognition doesn't come with a shout. It comes with a quiet exhale. It's the moment you realize you can put down the dictionary, that their anxiety is not your mission to soothe, their disappointment is not your failure to prevent, their happiness was never your job to manufacture. You see the bridge you've been maintaining all these years, and you realize you are allowed to step off of it, to stand on your own ground, in your own emotional language, even if it means they no longer understand the landscape. The healing begins not when they finally see you, but when you stop desperately trying to see yourself only through their eyes. It starts the day you send a text back without editing it for tone, when you state a simple need without couching it in an apology, when you realize that the quiet dread of the notification is not a signal of your impending failure, but the echo of an old, out-of-date alarm. You are not responsible for managing the emotional weather of someone else's inner world. You are only responsible for building a sturdy home inside your own. You are not the family translator. You are the author who has been writing in a foreign language for too long. It is time to pick up your own pen. The story you tell next will be your own. Have you ever met someone who seems to have a sixth sense for other people's moods? The kind of person who walks into a room and before a word is spoken, has already taken its emotional temperature. The one who can de-escalate a tense dinner with a joke, or preempt a partner's bad day by having the coffee ready just so. We call them empaths, peacekeepers, the emotionally gifted. But what if that gift wasn't a talent at all? What if it was a survival mechanism wired into the nervous system during years of walking on psychological eggshells? Meet Alex. To everyone who knows them, Alex is the steady one, the reliable friend who always remembers the details. the partner who anticipates needs before they're spoken. In their family, they were never the problem child. They were the solution, the translator. From a young age, Alex learned that the atmosphere at home was a fragile, volatile thing. A parent's silence wasn't just quiet, it was a heavy, ominous cloud. A sudden sigh wasn't just breath, it was the first tremor of an earthquake. So Alex learned to map the terrain. They became a master cartographer of other people's inner weather. A shift in tone was a storm warning. A certain look meant retreat was necessary. Their own feelings, those were a luxury and far too dangerous to display. What if their sadness was the weight that finally broke the fragile peace? What if their anger was the spark that ignited everything? Psychologists have a term for this: hypervigilance, It's not empathy, it's a surveillance system. The brain conditioned in unpredictability stays on perpetual high alert, scanning for subtle cues. A tightened jaw, a sentence left unfinished, the specific sound of a key in the lock that might signal a coming emotional shift. For Alex, love became synonymous with anticipation. Care was demonstrated through preemptive action. The goal was not connection, but containment, Their adult relationships then weren't built on mutual vulnerability. They were built on a silent, exhausting contract times. I will manage your emotional ecosystem so perfectly that you will never have a reason to leave or to erupt. They chose partners who were in some subtle way emotionally opaque or high-need familiar terrain. They became experts in the pre-apology, soothing friction they didn't cause. Their own desires were edited into harmless suggestions. Their boundaries were so flexible they were invisible. The cost was a quiet, persistent hollowing out. A feeling of living in the ante-room of their own life, always listening at the door of someone else's. The plot twist isn't a dramatic betrayal or a hidden addiction. It's quieter and it rewrites everything. The twist is this: the very skill Alex prided themselves on the ability to prevent conflict was the very thing that perpetuated their deepest loneliness. They had spent a lifetime believing that if they were just attentive enough, just accommodating enough, they could finally earn the secure, effortless love they craved. But in doing so, they only attracted people who were perfectly happy to receive that service and never thought to look for the person providing it. The people who could times have seen them, who wanted a real partner and not an emotional concierge, were gently pushed away by Alex's own preemptive soothing. They were filtered out by a system designed to only admit those who needed managing. Alex wasn't finding love. They were recreating a full-time job. The moment of recognition doesn't come in a therapist's office, though. It starts there. It comes on a random Tuesday. Alex's partner is stressed about work pacing. Automatically, Alex's internal system boots up times. Make tea, offer a back rub, ask gentle questions, fix it. But this time a new thought, fragile and clear, interrupts the protocol times. What if I just sit here? What if his stress is his own asterisk? And they do. They feel the ancient anxiety rise, the fear that not helping is tantamount to harming. They watch the partner pace and they do not intervene. And the world does not end. The partner works through it and later comes to sit beside them, not because he was rescued, but because he wanted connection. That was the crack in the lens. Alex saw the bridge they'd been maintaining their whole life, a bridge between their worth and someone else's mood, and realized it led nowhere. It only circled back to their own exhaustion. The healing begins not with a grand declaration, but with a series of tiny, terrifying disobediences to an old internal regime. It's letting a text message sit without an immediate, perfectly calibrated response. It's stating a simple preference for where to eat without framing it as, whatever you want is fine. It's the visceral shock of expressing a minor need and discovering that the response is not annoyance but happy compliance. It is the slow somatic understanding that the dread in their chest is not a prophecy of impending relational disaster. It is the ghost of an old alarm ringing in a house that is no longer on fire. They learn in their nervous system that they are no longer responsible for the atmospheric pressure of every room they enter. Their only responsibility is to notice the climate of their own inner world and to decide consciously if they choose to stay. You are not an emotional air traffic controller destined to manage the comings and goings of other people's feelings. You are a child who learned to read the clouds to avoid the storm. It is a skill born of necessity, not destiny. And now you are an adult who can look at the sky and simply see the weather for what it is, not as a command, but as information. You can feel the wind and decide for the first time, if you want to fly a kite, or simply close the window and sit in the quiet, sturdy shelter of your own making. The story you tell next will be your own, and it begins with a single revolutionary sentence, I feel. Part 3. The architecture of the self. They watch the partner pace a storm contained within the four walls of the living room. Their own muscles are tense, a phantom readiness to step in, to absorb, to deflect. But they do not move. They let the storm pass over through around them, and the world does not end. The partner works through the silent turbulence and later comes to sit beside them on the couch. Not because he was rescued, but because the quiet had settled and he wanted connection. That was the crack in the lens. Alex saw the bridge they'd been maintaining their whole life, a structure built from panic and polished with perfection, and realised it was a monument to a ghost. It led nowhere. It only circled back to the hollowed-out foundation of their own exhaustion. The healing begins not with a grand declaration, but with a series of tiny, terrifying disobediences to an old internal regime. It's letting a text message sit without an immediate, perfectly calibrated response. The vibration in the pocket is not a summons. It is a note slipped under the door of your attention, which you may open in your own time. It's stating a simple preference for where to eat the Thai place, not the burger joint, without immediately framing it as, but really, whatever you want is fine. The sentence hangs in the air, a simple statement of fact, not a negotiation for worth. It is the visceral shock of expressing a minor need. I'm tired, I need to sit down, and discovering that the response is not annoyance, not a burden, but a quiet. Of course, a hand on the small of the back, a chair pulled out. The sky does not fall. The other person is not diminished. They are perhaps relieved to be given a clear signal in the static. This is the slow somatic understanding. The dread that coils in the chest, the tightness in the throat, when a voice tightens or a door closes too firmly. It is not a prophecy of impending relational disaster. It is the ghost of an old alarm, a bell wired to a sensor in a house that is no longer on fire. The body remembers the blaze, but the present moment is only smoke from a distant chimney. They learn neuron by neuron that they are no longer responsible for the atmospheric pressure of every room they enter. Their nervous system is not a public utility tasked with regulating the emotional climate for everyone else's comfort. Their only responsibility is to notice the weather inside their own skin, to feel the chill of anxiety, the heat of resentment, the calm of a neutral moment, and to decide consciously, do I choose to stay in this climate? Do I need a coat or an open window? Or is it time to simply walk into a different room altogether? You were not born an emotional air traffic controller destined to manage the comings and goings, the landings and crashes of other people's feelings. You were a child in a volatile ecosystem. You learned to read the subtle shifts in barometric pressure, a sigh, a glance, a silence that felt too long because your survival, your sense of safety depended on predicting the storm. It was a skill born of exquisite necessity, and now you are an adult. You can look at the sky of another person's mood and simply see the weather for what it is. Clouds are clouds. They are not omens. A cold front is a cold front. It is not a personal failure. You can feel the wind of their frustration, and you can decide for the first time if you want to fly a kite in it to engage and play, or if you simply want to close the window, pull a blanket around your shoulders, and sit in the quiet, sturdy shelter of your own making. The story you tell next will be your own. It will not be a pre-written script where your character exists only to soothe the protagonists around you. It begins with a single revolutionary sentence spoken not to manipulate, not to appease, but to simply state a truth of your internal landscape. I feel Part 4, the ghost alarm. It is the ghost of an old alarm, a bell wired to a sensor in a house that is no longer on fire. The body remembers the blaze, but the present moment is only smoke from a distant chimney. They learn neuron by neuron that they are no longer responsible for the atmospheric pressure of every room they enter. Their nervous system is not a public utility tasked with regulating the emotional climate for everyone else's comfort. Their only responsibility is to notice the weather inside their own skin, to feel the chill of anxiety, the heat of resentment, the calm of a neutral moment, and to decide consciously, do I choose to stay in this climate? Do I need a coat or an open window? Or is it time to simply walk into a different room altogether? You were not born an emotional air traffic controller, destined to manage the comings and goings, the landings and crashes of other people's feelings. You were a child in a volatile ecosystem. You learned to read the subtle shifts in barometric pressure, a sigh, a glance, a silence that felt too long because your survival, your sense of safety, depended on predicting the storm. It was a skill born of exquisite necessity, and now you are an adult. You can look at the sky of another person's mood and simply see the weather for what it is. Clouds are clouds. They're not omens. A cold front is a cold front. It is not a personal failure. You can feel the wind of their frustration, and you can decide for the first time if you want to fly a kite in it to engage and play, or if you simply want to close the window, pull a blanket around your shoulders, and sit in the quiet, sturdy shelter of your own making. The story you tell next will be your own. It will not be a pre-written script where your character exists only to soothe the protagonists around you. It begins with a single revolutionary sentence spoken not to manipulate, not to appease, but to simply state a truth of your internal landscape. Have you ever felt a phantom vibration in your pocket long after you silence the phone? A ghost of a notification, an echo of an alert system that no longer exists. Your body remembers the call to arms, but the war is over. The house is not on fire. That distant smell of smoke is just someone's fireplace a mile away carrying on the wind. This is the story of the alarm that forgot to turn itself off. The story of a nervous system wired to a crisis that has already passed. You learn neuron by neuron that you were the canary in the coal mine of your family's emotional atmosphere. Your purpose was to sense the first trace of toxic gas, the tremor in a voice, the temperature drop in a glance, and sing out a warning. To flutter and gasp so that others might be spared the full collapse. It was not a role you chose. It was a biology you developed. Your childhood was a masterclass in interoception, in feeling the tremors in the ground beneath everyone else's feet. You became an expert seismograph, calibrated to measure shifts no one else acknowledged. Your own desires, your own quiet joys, were static on the readout background noise to be filtered out. The only data that mattered were the spikes and plunges on the charts of other people's moods. Your safety, your worth, your very right to occupy space was indexed to your ability to predict the quake and soften its impact. You learned to be small before the wave could hit you. You learned to apologize for existing in the path of the weather, and so you built a life inside a bell jar. Every relationship, every room, every new beginning was subconsciously scanned for the sensors, for the wires that would once again connect you to that old familiar alarm. You chose partners whose emotional barometers were stormy and unpredictable because the chaos felt like home. You took jobs where you were the designated absorber of tension, the human shock absorber, because it confirmed the story you knew by heart. Times I am here to regulate the world. Asterisk. But here is the plot twist, the quiet truth that changes everything. Asterisk. Asterisk. The house is not on fire. It never was. Asterisk. Asterisk. The blaze you were born into was not yours. You were a child standing in a hallway, smelling smoke and feeling heat, and you were handed a bucket. You were told the inferno was a fact of life, and that your only choice was to fight it or be consumed. But the fire belonged to someone else. It was their unresolved past, their unmet needs, their uncontrolled spark. You were never the arsonist. You were never even the firefighter. You were just a child living in a house where someone else refused to call 911. The moment of recognition is not a shout. It is a silence. It is the space between the phantom vibration and your reaction. It is the breath you take when you smell distant smoke. And for the first time, you do not scramble for the bucket. You simply look out the window. You locate the source. You see it is contained over there, separate from you. And you feel in your body the profound and unsettling truth. You are in a house that is warm and solid and safe. The ghost of the alarm is just a memory, a pathway in the brain worn deep by necessity. The bell is disconnected. The sensor is dust. Your only task now is to stop saluting the empty flagpole, so you begin the slow work of rewiring. You sit with the silence until it becomes a room, not a threat. You feel the old urge to fix, to soothe, to manage, and you practice letting the impulse rise and fall like a wave without riding it to shore. You say, "I feel," and you let the sentence end with a period, not a question mark. You are not reporting for duty. You are simply broadcasting your coordinates from a peaceful country. You are not the canary. You are the person who has finally walked out of the mine into the open air and is learning breath by breath that the sky has its own weather and it is not your job to control it. Your only job is to feel the sun on your face and to decide moment by moment where you want to stand. The body remembers the blaze, but the present moment is only smoke from a distant chimney. You can close the window. You can build a fire of your own choosing. You can stand in your own kitchen in the quiet and realize the only alarm ringing is the one you are now finally powerful enough to disarm for good.